of people. You know, previously, maybe the emphasis was on just getting people under a roof. But, and that's an important part of development of the person, but we have to concentrate on the people themselves. And there have been a lot of good people over the course of the years, in HUD's 50 years, who have helped a tremendous number of people, and there have been a lot of programs, probably too many programs for anybody to even keep track of. But the goal now is the development of people, housing being a portion of what is needed in order to develop our populace. We only have 330 million people. China has 4 times that many, and so does India. So we've got to concentrate on developing our people. That means holistic communities, such as the one being developed here, that include education, that include child care, so that many of the mothers who interrupted their education with a pregnancy might have an opportunity to go back and get their GED and their associate's degree and their bachelor's degree, and become self-sufficient and teach that to their children, breaking cycles of dependency, but more importantly, enhancing our populace. Those people will be great contributors to our society, maybe discovering a new source of energy or the cure for cancer. So every single young person you see walking up and down the street here is a potential solution to some of the problems we have, but we need to make sure we develop them. The other thing that is very important is that we begin to run things in a more business-like manner so that we have more effect of those dollars. You know, when we look at some of our homeless programs, continuum of care programs, and the way that they've recently been restructured, we're getting about 14% more bang for the buck. And you know, that's going to continue across all of the programs. Doesn't mean, as some people have indicated, that the government's going to get rid of all of the programs that have done great good for our society. That's not going to happen. There may be some restructuring and focusing, but also it's very important to recognize that the thing that works these days are public-private partnerships. You know, the old model is the government rides in with a big bucket of money and says, here, take this and build this project for these people, and then rides off into the sunset while it deteriorates. Well, you know, that's not the model that really works. The model that works is creating win-win situations so that you get the private sector to come in and partner with the government. The government provides some money, and the government provides protections so that you can make sure that development flourishes, and the government provides technical assistance to help, because you know it is to the government's advantage that these projects that they are successful. And we have to protect taxpayer dollars. So you know we're going to be watching that very carefully and helping to develop it, rather than imposing government on people. One of the things that has worked so well is moving to work programs that provide a lot more flexibility for the communities, because as I just saw with a bunch of community leaders, there's tremendous leadership here and tremendous ideals for how to get things done. So, it doesn't need to be micromanaged. It just needs to be guided, help. We all need to work together to make this work. And the last thing I'll say before, opening up to questions is, it is so vital that we, the American people, reach deep down into our souls and ask ourselves who we are. What kind of people are we? In the past, whenever there's a disaster anywhere in the world, who's first in line to help out? We are. In the past, when our neighbors had a problem, who was the first one at their door to help them? we were. It's one of the reasons that our country succeeded. It's one of the reasons that we reached the pinnacle so quickly. The one thing that can destroy all of that is hatred and divisiveness. And we all can start with ourselves by rejecting the purveyors of hatred and division and recognize that that's not going to get us anywhere. It never works. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Jesus said it himself. We need to look down into our roots. And let's think about the good things that happen here. Have bad things happened in our country? Of course they have. Bad things have happened anywhere there are human beings, because human beings are imperfect. We can't dwell on those things and let those things make us hateful toward others. And if we remember that our strength is in our unity, I have no doubt that we will be highly successful.
Time for a couple questions. Any questions before we head out?
Senator, I would ask you, I have an off-topic question. I understand you were in Virginia this weekend.
Yes.
What was the feel that you got up there? What do you see as the stakes? Obviously, you're both Republicans, moving forward from that race.
I think ultimately what we see in the Commonwealth is an opportunity for us to empower people through faith-based initiatives, through a focus on education, workforce investment, and finding ways to create more entrepreneurs. I think Ed's approach to taxation at 10% across the board cut will be powerful and helpful to stimulate growth and opportunities. I spent the time in Richmond so we could see some of the folks who have seen transformation happen in their lives, very much like the North Side Project, to be honest with you, where you see a collaborative effort from community leaders looking for ways to lift themselves up, and with a little additional assistance from the government, great things are possible. And one of the reasons why we're here today is to make sure that we continue to focus on successful projects that have been working throughout South Carolina, and frankly that can be models for the nation. This Northside Project is one of those models for the nation.
Question is for either one of you. What about including female or minority businesses that we get to develop?
I'll just say, where's Liberty? This is a classic example of the answer to your question. Make sure that you get your cameras on Liberty, who is a forward-thinking entrepreneur who's watching things happen because she's a part of the process. There's no doubt that the groups that I've met with around the state and around the country are focusing on making sure those folks who have been disconnected to opportunity are oftentimes disconnected from entrepreneurship and business opportunities. And so if we're going to see the American dream manifest in communities like the Northside Project, you're going to have to make sure that the business owners in that community have the responsibility and the opportunity to give back. Most often that happens when those business owners come from the community. So what we're looking for, at least what I'm looking for, is the organic growth opportunities where folks from the neighborhood become business owners in those neighborhoods and start hiring folks. When I started my business, is exactly what I did. I hired the folks that I had great confidence in, and it happened to be folks who looked like me, who I'd been in business with before, or who I had gone to school with. So the goal is to make sure that the pipeline of opportunity impacts every neighborhood.
The other thing that I would emphasize is Section 3. Section 3 of the Housing Code says that if a development is receiving HUD funding, then they have an obligation to hire and train and give contracts to the low-income people in that area. And it's been on the books for 49 years. It has hardly been used because the contractors come in and they say, well, there's a skills gap. These people don't know how to weld, they don't know how to do cement work or brick work or electrical work, so we're going to bring our people in from the outside. The only problem with that is that it precludes the thought that you might have a brain. Because the reason we have brains is so that we can plan and strategize. And we know a year ahead of time, 2 years, 3 years ahead of time that you're going to be doing that project. That obviously is the time to start training people. And if we begin to think that way, it will make a big difference, because you give people the kinds of skills that allow them to climb the ladder of opportunity so that they don't need any assistance anymore. That's our goal. And I think as long as we keep that in mind, those kinds of programs will be very successful. And I just had a meeting on Friday, small and disadvantaged business department, to talk about opportunities for women and minorities. But right now is such a wonderful time in our society, because for the first time in more than a decade, jobs are really starting to come back. The economy is really starting to spring forward. Wages are really starting to go up. And this is the time when our creative juices are going to do their best.
Spoken like a neurosurgeon. We have brains. I wrote that comment down on my heart without any question. It is interesting that when you find yourselves with full employment, you actually see wages increasing substantially, and that's good news for the economy, but it's better news for the people who are desperately seeking work and seeking work at a livable wage.
Exactly.
Last question.
Last question.
Senator, do you have any comments on the Texas church shooting?
Certainly, our prayers are with Texas without any question. The devastation is hard to imagine. I was at an event yesterday with the Tri-County Ministries in the Low Country when I heard about the shooting, and there I was with a group of folks from the United Methodist Church who have dedicated their lives to making a difference in other people's lives, to realize the important role that church plays in the fabric and the glue of this community. And to see the devastation there is it's just hard to digest. We will, over the next couple of days, I'm sure, get into the political parts of that debate. Some folks want to rush there. I think that's fairly insensitive and calloused. I'm going to focus my attention on praying for the family, praying for the community, and looking for ways to do what is necessary as we come out of this. Thank you. Y'all have a good day.